Hello, I'm Stacy. Have you ever experienced something crazy while traveling abroad? Well, I certainly have. It's not what you'd expect, though, because I'm not talking about a wild adventure. Actually, it was an experience that almost ended my life and everyone who was on the plane with me. Sounds a bit mental, right? Well, wait until you hear what really happened. It all started when I was on my way back from India. My two best friends and I had gone to join in the celebrations for Holi, the Festival of Colors. That's the one where everyone throws brightly colored powder around. It was so amazing. All the colors lighting up the air around us, making us look like a rainbow. We had a lot of fun, even though it took us about a day to wash the colors out of our hair. Anyway, my friends and I were going home after a 2-week stay, and it was about time for our flight back. None of us had been on a plane before this trip, so even though it was our second flight, it was still a pretty new and exciting thing to do. If only we had known what was about to follow. After about 3 hours in the air, a conversation behind us got my attention. It was a man complaining that he felt sick. His wife was asking if he felt queasy from the plane, and he was saying it wasn't that, he just felt cold and shivery. I heard her say to him that he had a fever. Well, that probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but pretty soon we realized that was just the beginning of something very strange. After the first person got sick, someone across the aisle from them leaned over and said they were feeling sick too. They compared the symptoms and they both felt the same thing. My friends and I weren't really bothered at first, but when we heard another passenger asking the flight attendant if they had anything to help with the fever, we started freaking out. It was getting seriously weird. 3 people on one flight suddenly getting sick wasn't normal. As the flight went on, it seemed like every half hour someone new was complaining that they were sick, developing a fever really fast, shaking, cold sweats, coughing, and headaches. It was one person after the next. Every few minutes, someone would call a flight attendant who was trying not to look nervous. One asked for aspirin. Another asked for a cool cloth for his wife's forehead. Another asked if they had any blankets because she had no warm clothes for her son. Then another, then another, then another. My friends and I were not the only ones who were freaking out. It was the whole plane. And we still had to endure 7 more hours of this. I tried to count how many people were complaining of sickness. It was up to 30. The whole plane seemed to be full of a crowd of people with a mysterious illness. To lighten the mood, my one friend suggested we should play a betting game. Guess who is going to get sick next? The winner would get a chocolate bar when we landed, she said. Of course, we didn't actually play it. It was just a way to try and calm us down. But anyway, it didn't take long to find out who I should have betted on. I soon started feeling cold and shaky. My head felt all fuzzy. My friend checked and told me I had a fever. Suddenly, I was terrified. Maybe it was a bit dramatic of me, but I really thought I was going to die. I was starting to feel so bad that even my own friends were keeping their distance from me. And no wonder! It was spreading faster than any illness I'd ever heard of. I was terrified. 20 minutes before the flight landed, people started to relax a bit. I guess that they couldn't wait to get off this diseased plane. However, when the plane landed, things got even more chaotic because the doors wouldn't open. The plane had received an order to lock everyone in. Finally, there was an announcement. We were being quarantined. Nobody was allowed off the plane before things were handled. We were told to stay put and wait for medical professionals, and that nobody must attempt to leave when the doors opened, or we risked spreading the unknown foreign virus to everyone outside. That made me even more scared. Quarantine was the kind of thing that only happened in movies. If they weren't letting us off this plane to protect everyone outside, I figured they must have thought there was a chance we could all die. So I wasn't being too dramatic after all. We waited, and finally, some doctors from the Center for Disease Control stepped onto the plane. One by one, they checked every passenger, even the ones who weren't sick. With the sick ones, they checked their temperature, their blood pressure, asked them where they had been, and interviewed them about their symptoms. I listened closely. Everyone was describing the same thing. Every now and then, the doctors would step into the cockpit for a few minutes before coming back out. I figured they were probably discussing their findings, but they kept repeating this, checking everyone in exactly the same way. It felt like this went on for an eternity, while I waited to find out just how serious my condition was. My friends were trying to stay calm to make me feel better, but I could tell they were nervous. They were worried about me. Finally, the doctor started letting people go. I was surprised to see almost everyone leaving the plane, one by one. My friends were happy, telling me it couldn't be so serious if they were letting people off, and that I was going to be fine. I felt relieved for a moment, until a doctor came up to me specifically and said that I needed to stay.